Here we are about a week and a half into 2023, and you may be looking at your wallet, your bank statement, your checkbook, your purse, whatever you do your banking with, and saying, how can I handle the upcoming inflation and what's to come in terms of economic wealth here in Canada? We'll talk about that tonight with some of your responses. We'll also tell you why a woman is taking depression into her own hands and trying something new every single day for 365 days in a year. And how is Windsor's Ontario tourism sector faring in the recession? We'll talk to an expert who says, well, we're not out of the woods yet. Welcome to the latest edition of the Arms Bumanlag Project. Glad to be back with you tonight. It is January 2023. It is Tuesday, January 10th. Happy to have you along for the ride. If you're joining us live, we are on Facebook this evening, LinkedIn, and on Twitter with season 3, 98 episodes and counting of this particular program. Thank you so much for joining us. Love to have you along for the ride. If you want to comment and get involved in the show today, we got lots of ground to talk about, lots of topics to dive into, and chatting with you about different news headlines, different things happening, not only here in Windsor, Essex, but really around the world here in 2023. As always, the show is live, and we love to hear those comments. Thanks to Brenda, who is chiming in on LinkedIn. Brenda, always good to hear from you, my friend. She says, Happy New Year's, Arms, and to your precious family. Happy New Year to you, too. Certainly hope that you had a pretty good one. If you have kids, maybe the Christmas break felt like this monumental shift of time spent with the family. I know for us, it was extremely rewarding. It was extremely busy, and we had a ton of commitments and responsibilities. Not to mention, we had a bit of that bug that was going around here in the Windsor, Essex area too. So we weren't feeling the hottest towards the new year. But happy to say everybody's on the mend, back to sort of a routine this week with Liam going back to school, and not so much a routine when it comes to what we're experiencing in the grocery stores and really right across shelves in Windsor, Essex and around Canada. If you have been shopping and you've been engaging with some of the content that's out there in terms of what's happening with the economy, what's happening with inflation, the R word, whether or not we're in a recession here in Windsor, Essex, really around the country too, it's been difficult for a lot of folks. You know, I use my wallet as an example as we opened up the show tonight, saying that there's been some big changes, I think, big spending habit changes for most folks who aren't necessarily in a position to make that much more cuts when it comes to their overall budget. And there's a lot of stories, a lot of things that I've been noticing going out grocery shopping here in Windsor, Essex too. I primarily do that for the fam, Carrie shops too, and we're both kind of shocked, to say the least, at the price of just a number of commodities. I mean, this has been something that I think has been sort of creeping up. This is something that they've been talking about in the traditional media for quite some time. The cost of living continues to rise, but I know most people's wages still remain stagnant and the same. One of the stories I wanted to bring your attention to, and I'm sure you may have seen this on social media, and correct me if you haven't, but this is something I wanted to talk about too. A couple of pictures that went viral over the last little bit from different reporters and just different individuals on social media talking a little bit about what people are seeing in their groceries too. Take a look at this. This is a shot from Loblaws here in Canada, and this is for a pack of chicken breast. This is one of the pictures going viral over the last couple of weeks. $30 for a pack of chicken breast, which to me, I haven't seen that price, but there's another piece. This is sort of the President's Choice chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken breast as well. I believe there's about 5 pieces in that package too. Believe it or not, $33.45. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And this has been sort of the story with chicken prices continuing to rise. And if you're like our family, we enjoy chicken. I eat chicken all the time. It's my sort of go-to meal. And seeing these prices on social media is sort of a shock for a lot of folks, I think, because that's a big chunk of a family's budget. And now if you're feeding a family of 4 and chicken is going in, if you want to make a chicken dinner, I mean, you can tenderize this stuff. You can season it the way you want. You can make cuts of it. I know a lot of people are taking a look at alternatives to chicken. Other grocery stores too, having different prices, but $33.45 here. Absolutely incredible, I think, from start to finish for what people are experiencing when it comes to some of the things that they've seen. And then generally speaking, dry goods too have been really increasing in price too. I notice a lot of the cereals that we eat and we go shopping for at Sobeys and at Walmart, those particular prices continue to rise too. And now they're selling sort of family packs of that cereal that you can buy in the larger bundles. But overall, it's just incredible. And I don't know what the alternative is. Like, you've got to feed your family, you've got to get things going, you've got to make sure that, your family's well fed. But if you've had any kind of big issues and different things that you have cut back on, I know for us, we're really trying to plan our meals. We're really trying to piece together what we're spending money on versus what we're not. It's inflation, they say. It's supply chain issues. It's other avenues that they are continuing to come out. And the toughest pill, I think, for me to swallow as a parent, as a husband, as a provider for my family, and I'm sure there's a lot of folks who are listening to the show, watching the show, that may agree with this too. It's one of those things where you take a look at chicken prices even then, and then you have these reports that, Loblaws has made record amounts of profit in 2022, like astronomical amounts, like Scrooge McDuck money worth of profits, as a reference to the mid-90s cartoon show, like swimming in profits, diving into the profits, the best profits they've had. And it's insane to me that, again, we're dealing with these massive chicken prices as well. We've tried to look at alternatives. Like I said, we try to buy that chicken in bulk, Costco memberships. I haven't been there in a while, but I think that's our next step for this too. It's to take a look at what we can do to sort of plan out those meals as well. And I know a lot of people, they try to buy in bulk, they try to meal prep too. But one of the things we wanted to talk to you about tonight is, what are you doing? Have you done anything to really change your budget when it comes to some of the prices that we've been seeing at grocery stores? Some people I talk to on social media say that they're coupon cutting. They're waiting for the sales. Instead of getting chicken breasts, they're going for the chicken legs. I guess better if you know how to cook it, you know how to prepare it properly. It's actually quite delicious too. But again, some of these pictures on social media are just causing an uproar for folks. And I think that's going to be sort of the cusp over the next little bit, is that people are going to start to question, hey, wait a second, how come I'm working so hard and I can't keep my head above water? Especially when things continue to get more and more expensive. And that's not necessarily just the main thing that's happening in terms of grocery shelves. I said to somebody, are you kidding me on these particular prices? It is insane to see, but it's also medicine shortages too. I had made a mention that my family wasn't feeling well. It's like kind of that merry-go-round of sickness, right? Somebody, like one of our kids, like Liam, will bring it home from school, or Carrie will bring it home, and then I'll get sick, then Liam gets sick, then Liv gets sick. And it's just sort of that merry-go-round when you have kids. And I think the biggest thing is it's been tough to swallow in this next segment here. It's those medicine and really formula shortages that have been happening right across not only Windsor, Essex, but this has been something that has been prevalent in Ontario and really Canada too. When there was a couple of articles, and here's some shots from our local Shoppers Drug Mart. Not a box of cold medicine to be found. And it continues to be that way. People stockpiling, worried about, getting sick, wanting to make sure they have enough of the cold medicine, whether it is, the different types of Dimetap or different things, and you can't find it. There's some NyQuil here. Here's a shot from Walmart, and some Benylin as well. But if you're looking for some of the good stuff, quote unquote, some of the Buckleys, and heaven forbid if you try to find a bottle of Buckleys here in the Windsor, Essex area. I couldn't find it for the life of me. Fortunately, we found it being stocked as sort of a last-ditch effort to run into a local shop, and then we got it. But that's the scary thing here, is how does this continue to become a problem? How does this continue to affect people? I know for my family, it's, we're lucky because we do have my wife's sisters in the States, and they're able to get some of these things, some of the pain relieving medication too, some of the children's Tylenol that we try to maintain some sort of supply here, because God knows that our kids are getting sick left and right. But it's not just medicine too, it's also formula shortages. And I wanted to take some shots here too. This is some shots from some empty formulas shelves at Shoppers Drug Mart as well. And what really crushed me about this too, not only being a dad, and Olivia takes specific types of formula, and maybe you want to chime in on this if you can. We're live again talking a little bit about the tough to swallow shortages of medicine and certainly formula, is I was trying to frantically find some formula a few days ago. We're running around from all these different grocery stores because, Carrie, my wife, has a number of friends who are kind of moms as well, and they have their kids. And I guess whenever there's a type of formula that they're looking for, they all kind of group chat each other. And then it's like, okay, they have it in stock here. And then I got to run over there and I got to grab it. In my journey to find this formula for Olivia, lo and behold, there is a mom with a relatively newborn, probably a few months old, and she looked absolutely despondent in terms of not finding the formula she was looking for. Broke my heart to see it, because I could tell that she was definitely looking for that type of formula that her daughter or son needed. Couldn't tell because the little peanut was in one of those carry-ons, but you can tell she was doing her best too to kind of find out where all of this was. And I don't think that there's a good solution other than increasing production. I think it was a while back, just before the new year hit, Canada made a deal with the United States to ship over some of that baby formula that so many people were clamoring for. It is insane. And this is something that continues to be a problem for essential needs for folks here. And then the price of this stuff too. Like Dennis chimes in on Facebook. He goes, it really is tough to find a lot of things. It is. I think the selection's not there anymore. And people are kind of going in their separate directions. Very interesting to see where this all plays out over the next little bit too. What's interesting too is people kind of get together and they talk about how they can help each other. They can talk about how, you made mention about the group chat that my wife was on. I know that there are a number of different people on Facebook, and there's groups, and there's sort of that caregiving groups that people kind of get into, and they say, hey, what are you looking for? What do you need? I know we've tapped into that kind of thing as well, from Windsor Essex perspective, to try to get that information out. And it's great to see that people still are trying to look out for each other. And I think I don't want it to be doom and gloom here as we open up the show and sort of the new format. But it's also interesting to see that people are still maintaining that sense of camaraderie, and they want to help each other out. I know that was the case with us too. Like, we did have some formula that we weren't using, and instead of wasting it, I know we did post it in one of the mamas groups, and lo and behold, somebody did end up using that particular formula. And the gentleman who picked it up was so grateful to us. And we were like, hey man, like, just pay it forward. It's as simple as that. And I think that was really interesting to see and have that kind of discussion with that person about how desperate people were getting to make sure that they were getting the food and the formula that they needed for their particular peanut, their son or daughter in their home. A couple of comments before we move on to the next story here on the Arms Bumanlag project kicking off season 3. Dennis says cost really seems to play a role in production. I think, yeah, I think so too. But this is what all these economic people are for, right? These are I think the cracks in the supply chain that are starting to come to the forefront, on top of the economic challenges that we've been seeing 2 years, almost 3 years now into the pandemic. Is, I think there's something to be said about bringing home production and making sure that we're able to produce these products at home in our country. I think that's a big part of it. I think a big part of it too is, how do they kind of wrap their heads around the inflation angle, the wages angle? There was that jobs report, generally speaking, from Canada that just came out a few weeks ago, saying that, the jobs market is still rather robust right across Canada. So the Bank of Canada is saying that they may actually come back with another rate hike, which is just going to really slam the brakes on things. If you think things haven't really slammed the brakes yet, get ready if that happens, So they say they don't want to, I guess, necessitate a recession, but my God, that's going to be a tricky landing to hit. They've got to do something. It's a difficult position to be in. No doubt about that. If you're just joining us here on the show, this is season 3 of the Arms Bumanlag project. We continue to do the live portion in this show bi-weekly here in Windsor Essex, talking about different stories, getting involved with things that may be on your mind. It's an open mic with our audience. If you're joining us live, you can hop on the stream, comment. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about shortages, supply chain issues, starting off the new year before we dive into something a little bit more lighthearted and certainly more, I think, appropriate for this time of year. But love to hear your comments. You can email me too anytime. Go to my website, armsbumanlag.com, chime in on the show, and love to hear your experiences. If you've cut back because of inflation, if you've had to adjust your spending habits because of inflation, I think most people have had to swallow that. And are you prepared for what's coming, when may come here in 2023? Brianne here commenting before we move on to the next story. She says, I don't understand why the government is allowing this. Everyone is struggling. Everyone can't afford the high prices. Hear to that. Hear to that, Brianne. I'm a self-advocate. We've been trying to make changes to help everybody. It makes me sad when people are struggling. We all need to help each other more, remind people to be kind, and don't take life for granted. Yeah, I agree. You're spot on the nose there, Brianne. And thank you so much for kicking off season 3 with us too. You know, if I'm prime minister, and I'm not, I'm going right across the country to every university, every Ivy League university I can get my hands into. And I'm gathering the smartest individuals in the realm of economics and supply chains and all those different titans of industry, people who are making these things happen. And I'm saying, you guys are all going to be seconded by the government. We're going to put you in a room. We're going to take care of you. We need you guys to come up with a solution or some sort of plan, something that we can do. Get these people who are smarter than us to work, you know? Dennis says here, I think we're headed for a recession, unfortunately. Yeah, all signs point to that. They say they don't want that. They say they want to sort of cool down spending, get people into sort of the mindset of saving. That's going to be a tough road to hoe if we go down that road. A lot of people are struggling. And I think it's a big disconnect for a lot of folks too. I think there's people who realize that, you know, you can't necessarily rely on a single income now. You've got to rely on multiple streams of income, especially with the price of everything going up. And especially if you got kids, I always say to Carrie, my wife, you know, we've got to ensure that our kids are somewhat taken care of here over the next little bit, because it's going to be, I think, harder as life goes on, and hopefully so light at the end of the tunnel. So we are talking about supply chain issues, inflation here on the show. Dennis continues to comment. He says, you know, we need to help each other out, come together as a community. I miss the good old days when you needed a cup of sugar, you could go to your neighbor. Yeah, I think that still is in commonplace with a lot of folks. Depends on where you live, Dennis. And if you're, I guess, quote unquote, friendly with your neighbors, right? I think where we live in Amherstburg, we're very lucky. We know our neighbors very well. We love our neighbors. And honestly, our neighbors to the one side of us, we're very close to, because there's our son and their son plays together. But I think coming together as a community is fine, and I encourage it. But I think, again, that goes back to the systemic approach of addressing the real issue here. And I think it's multifaceted, right? I think it is very much lending itself to making sure that we're able to produce the products here in Canada, that we're paying people a livable and decent wage, that, you know, at some point in the game of capitalism, when you make X amount of money, I think, you know, instead of getting like $1 trillion billion for profits, I think we should just give them a trophy and say, guess what? You won. You won the game of capitalism. It's a lot of money, right? They're pulling in these record profits. That's a ton of money. You know, and that gap between the haves and have-nots is widening at an exponential rate. Give them a trophy. You won the game of capitalism. You know, not to say there's a limit. Shouldn't be a limit, but I think at some point you're like, I got all the money I need. I'm good. Gonna give it back. Anyways, feel free to comment on those shortages and some of your ideas if you think that there is something that we should be doing or something that you're doing to make sure that your family is well fed and well taken care of in these sort of quote unquote unprecedented times here in 2023. Well, here's another story. It's called mental wellness. And you might be thinking about the most depressing day of the year, which is coming up rather shortly. It's like that day where the credit card bills come in from Christmas, and you may be thinking, oh, God, here we go. It's another new year. I've got all these commitments. I wanted to talk about mental wellness, and I wanted to talk about something that somebody is doing that caught my attention. And it has to do with the topic of depression. And I think this is pretty incredible. If you haven't heard the story already, there is this lady who I'm showing you a picture of here, and she has struggled with depression. She's actually found a way, actually more than 300 ways, to improve her mental health by doing something new every day for a whole year. The woman in question here pictured is Jess Mel, and she says she's now the happiest she's been in a decade after trying new things for a whole year, 365 days. She's tried hot yoga. She even tried beekeeping. So during the pandemic, okay, she is 34 years old. She suffered from anxiety and depression. Lockdown actually made her realize she was depending on her routine as insurance to sort of keep her going. So last year on December 27th, as the pandemic was sort of fading, she decided to try something new every day for 100 days. So that took her to about period of April, okay? And she found herself eager to do more. 1 full year later, she's completed her challenge and she has no plans of stopping. She completed a wide range of firsts, including bleeding a radiator. I don't know how to do that. Using a sewing machine. Also, I don't know how to do that. And joining a gardening group. Well, I know how to garden. She's from England, in Surrey. She was able to visit some European cities like Vienna, Budapest, Copenhagen, Dublin, Krakow, and then back home on her own home soil, she tried speed dating and line dancing. And she says that she feels pretty emotional about it. She can't believe it. She wanted to finish off with something exciting. She sort of documented things as she posted it on Instagram. That's where I kind of caught her story and started to follow along. And she just wanted to do new things. Sometimes she's joined by friends. Sometimes she says the best part about the whole experience has been putting herself outside of her comfort zone. She says that she feels like she constantly should be doing something. So I would give her kudos here. I mean, she's done some really entertaining firsts, all documented again on her Instagram, watching a hockey match in person, hockey game, playing with miniature pigs, even doing some educational quests too, like learning DIY tasks of hanging a picture, sewing a button. Now it's just part of what she does. And she likes to think that it sort of gives her some routine. It gives her a chance to kind of figure things out. And lets her experience life. Now, these pictures I showed you, she's golfing, she tried skateboarding, and she did pumpkin patch hunting as well. But might be something to think about too. I know oftentimes you've got responsibilities and you're doing things and you're constantly on the go. And I think a lot of people do feel defeated. They feel down. And I mean, yeah, a lot of these things, they cost her some money to do. But I overall feel that, again, when it comes down to her comfort zone, I think that's huge. And I think that's something I personally, for me in 2023, like I don't like to say I'm making New Year's resolutions. I like to say I'm making goals. And I've got what 4 or 5 ones. A few of them I shared on social media that I'd like to do here in 2023. I think another one for me is to really get out of my comfort zone and try new things, and see if you like them, because you never know. Right. And also kind of in that mindset, when you try something new, especially if you try to help you with your anxiety and your depression, you're not going to be an expert of it at first. And that's getting out of your comfort zone. You just try it and you might like it. And you can grow to love it through that practice. And as you can see by these pictures, and you follow her on Instagram as well, she's very, very happy. And she claims it's really helped with her depression. Brianne says, oh, wow, amazing story. Maybe I should try something new too. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it really depends on what you like to do. She goes, I'd love to do more presentations and get into more photography. Photography, I mean, you've got the luxury of cameras now, right? Some of the cameras are pretty high tech and they're intense in terms of what they can be, what you can use to shoot. But generally speaking, I mean, if you try it, you might love it. I know quite a few photographers, they swear by it. Like my good buddy, Steve Bureau, he's always out and about. I'll text him, say, hey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm out going to Michigan to go shoot this. Oh, cool. Swears by it. Loves it. Anyways, nice little feel-good story. So if you're feeling down and you're thinking, I got to find some structure, I got to do something to change things up, try something new. Marianne says, if you're going to do photography, start with your phone. Yeah, phones are pretty incredible with what they can do, right? Like I've got the iPhone myself, and I swear by some of the photo things that I take with it, and just the right angle. And it is pretty incredible to see what can be done. So mental wellness, 365 days a year, kind of takes you out of that mindset too. I know I work primarily in my home studio office, and even today I was just throwing the garbage out and getting outside and kind of spending some time outside, even for 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, it's a nice change of pace, a nice change of scenery. So maybe think about that here in 2023, trying something new, getting into something new, and loving what you do, even if you're not the best at it at that point. Well, finally tonight, we wanted to talk about something that is so ingrained into what Windsor Essex has to offer from a real estate standpoint, from an economy standpoint, from a business and tourism standpoint, is our tourism sector. How it's doing as we head into 2023. We're still in a pandemic. Have we seen any gains? What are the big concerns? And what are people and small business owners and tourism professionals seeing right at the ground level? Here's my conversation with Adriano Ciotoli of WindsorEats.
We're preparing for possibly another rough year, maybe similar to this past year, 2022. We're not, I mean, inflation is really hitting everyone hard. Inflation isn't expected to really go anywhere over this next year. And of course, we know when prices are going up, that goes into people's bottom lines when they're trying to do things for entertainment, fun and entertainment, right? That they're not willing to spend as much. So we're preparing as if it's going to be another tame year. Things may be gradually better, like improvement in the tourism industry, at least from a national level and even international level, and provincial too, is probably going to get better. But from a Windsor Essex perspective, we're anticipating for another just another ho-hum kind of generic year.
Adriano, why would you say that is? I mean, I know ArriveCam gone the way of the dodo. The feds have come out and said that they're going to be giving a big chunk of change for the whole blockade snafu almost a year to the date that happened at the bridge. Is it just Americans not coming here, or that it's a slow sort of burn again? Like, what else can we be doing? And you and I both know that this area is just phenomenal for different things to see, do, and experience.
Yeah, I've said this before, and it's one thing that I keep saying. It's almost like death by a thousand paper cuts, in that there's so many issues that happened all at once and that are continuing to happen, that it's making it really difficult for businesses. I mean, even with the border still open, right? Or the border opened up, and that's great. But after, over 2 years of it being shut, like, habits have been formed, and it's going to be extremely hard. I still don't anticipate American visitors coming over anywhere close to the Windsor Essex area, anywhere close to what they were pre-pandemic. And even you can say pre-pandemic was a little lower than in previous years, possibly as well. And they, habits have been formed. They started visiting their local businesses as well, and rediscovering their areas, and just, forgot about it. Not saying that it can't pick up again, but it's going to take a significant investment to lure those American customers back.
Re-education process about what Windsor has to offer. I think, generally speaking, because of businesses like you have done such a good job over the years we've known each other to sort of highlight how unique this area is. And I can tell you from a real estate perspective, we're hoping, God willing, that people are going to continue to realize, with the addition of all these big infrastructure announcements and investments, from the battery plant to the bridge to the new hospital, that people are going to start to filter down here and see what we have to offer. But this isn't something, I think, if you and I are born and raised, we know that the area is so unique. I mean, we're a stone's throw from Detroit. And that works both ways, right? Americans know we're wine country is just a stone's throw.
But
what is it? Is it education?
That's the thing, though. The Epic wine region, as fantastic as it is, and as much as a lot of the locals know how great it is, and of course some visitors from outside the area too, it's still a fairly unknown wine region, and the brand name of it. And that's not to knock any of the work that they do, because I mean, this is work that takes years and years and years to build up an image, right? And so they're continuing to work at showcasing this region as a great wine region, and are doing a great job of it, but it's not well known yet. And even Windsor, from just from a Michigan standpoint as well, isn't as well known as a destination as it used to be. So it's going to be tricky. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be still stacked against businesses in the Windsor Essex for a tourism, from a tourism perspective. But that's not to say, I mean, it's not all bad news. There are a lot more ships that are being built that are going to be coming for cruises in the Great Lakes in 2023 and 2024 as well. So, I mean, that's going to be a great thing. Most of them will be docking in the Detroit area right now, from what it seems, but there will be some spillover to Windsor, just because of the sheer number of ships that are going to be coming in. There's really only one or two docking areas in Detroit for them to come, where we have a while not necessarily developed, much larger space for ships to be coming in.
From ships to sausage. What a segue there. But I wanted to talk to you about this too, because I know, by the way, plug for WindsorEats, folks who want to follow all the latest culinary news, tourism news here locally. You got to follow them on all social media. Also check out their website too. Some of the articles you put out really give me a good barometer of what's really happening. I think we often drink, quote unquote, the Kool-Aid of, these great investment numbers and these announcements that come down from on high. And that's all great. But I always say a good barometer of any neighborhood or any kind of industry is to really get on the street and find out what businesses are doing. And this is something I know you've been following very closely with Robbie's Gourmet Sausage slowly saying goodbye. And there were other key, I guess, food industry locations and destinations, as it were, who have kind of sheltered as much as they can. What's your take on those things, including Robbie's, maybe pivoting to a different model post-pandemic?
I mean, it was an absolute shame to be losing businesses like Robbie's or Bad Witch or even Nola's. I mean, any business that closes is always a sad thing, or local business that closes is always a sad thing to see. But especially one that was nationally recognized, like Robbie's Gourmet Sausages. The good thing with Robbie is that it's not a goodbye, rather more of a see you later. He's going to be continuing on doing sausage making classes with WindsorEats. He's also planning pop-ups. I believe he has one in Kingsville at the Electric Cafe. Electric Love or Eclectic Love. I always forget the name of it, but I apologize. But it's a cute little spot in Kingsville, and he's doing a pop-up there in the coming weeks, and he's planning on being at farmers market. So thankfully he's going to be continuing his craft, but we're hoping. There's been some confidence, at least from some businesses, because it hasn't been all doom and gloom for all businesses. We've seen the F&B hospitality group bring back the restaurant that started it all for them, F&B, which was a little bit of a higher end, finer dining establishment with small plates and cocktails, and they just opened up recently, so they're seeing some confidence in their business, which is a good thing.
So what should be done? What can be done? I know this is going to be sort of like a slow burn again, right? To get us where we need to be, God willing, if everything continues, hopefully on an upward trend over the next couple of years, I would think. I think it is. And like I said, it's not doom and gloom. No,
everywhere. Like you look at places, and this is going to sound so bad. And then I feel horrible saying this, but you look outside of the actual city of Windsor and you look at Amherstburg, you look at, Kingsville, the Colchester area. Those areas right now haven't necessarily been as affected by a lot of troubles. I mean, they've been able to chug along. The wineries have been doing fairly good from what I've been able to hear. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that when prices started rising, inflation really kicked in, and people didn't necessarily have a lot of money to do a big vacation. The locals here, the ones that were, had a little less money in their pockets, but still wanting to do something, were heading out to the county as their getaway. And so that really helped, places like Amherstburg, Essex, and Kingsville, where Windsor's had a little bit of a tougher time being able to attract people here, especially, during the pandemic. A lot of habits were made really from Chatham on up, that people were going to Algonquin, Muskoka, Tobermory, Manitoulin Island. They were heading up north. And so the South was a little bit forgotten. The south of Ontario was forgotten a little bit. And so it really hurt Windsor. And then throw in that the border was closed for so long. It was kind of a trifecta of issues for people not coming to Windsor for vacation. Hopefully, things change and those habits start to change a little bit. But I mean, as I'm sure you know as well, habits are definitely tough to break.
Adriano Ciotoli from WindsorEats joining me here on the Arms Bumanlag project. So it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, some sad news with local businesses shutting their doors in 2023. But there is a bright spot at the end of this quote-unquote recession tunnel, inflation tunnel, whatever you want to call it, with some other businesses doubling down and saying this is the place we're going to be, invest, and work in. So thank you, Adriano. WindsorEats.com. Check out that website for more. Folks, that's going to do it for episode 98, the first episode of season 3 here on the Arms Bumanlag project. We're back on the 24th of January with more news, more opinion, and more guests live here on the Arms Bumanlag project. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in a couple weeks' time. Thank you so much for watching.